Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings to the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We turn now to a poem, a Persian lesson, which for some readers is in fact one of their favorite poems, not only of this cluster, but in all of Leaves of Grass. Now we're coming back to the idea of the mysticism of Whitman, especially Sufi mysticism, obviously Persian here. And we're back to Whitman as teacher, and we're back to the Song of Myself 46. You're asking me questions I answer, I cannot answer. You must find out for yourself. This is poem 23 of the 31 of Goodbye My Fancy. We're now coming to the very end, obviously, of the deathbed edition of Leaves of Grass. Our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net down that left-hand side, Talks with Walt, and that you were privy to the introductory set of comments for Goodbye My Fancy. Obviously, we're hopeful that you have studied the inscription stuff, especially eidolons, because there's going to be a whole lot of eidolons here. You'll remember that he used the word mystic, actually, in Learned Astronomer when he looks up into the air, right, into the moist night air. Let's listen to what Norton's has to tell us about this one. There is a manuscript or printer's copy with canceled title, A Sufi Lesson, and the poem's idea is an accurate reflection of Sufi mysticism. It was first published in Goodbye My Fancy, 1891, and of course Sufi is a teacher in Sufism, the Persian mysticism with a complex symbolism which has influenced poets and artists. Now, I said in my previous lecture, when Whitman used the word lesson, that we mustn't forget that Whitman himself started out as a teacher, and I think remained a teacher all his life. Mystic, or some reference to it, is used 22 times in Leaves of Grass. So it's clear that that's significant. Persian will take us back to Salutum on 10, as well as Song of the Broad Axe 7, and Proud Music of Storm 4, and then Old Chants, recently studied. Also, of course, it will make us think of Song of Myself 30, when we see the word lesson, and obviously it was used in the previous poem. Now, I think Whitman himself was very influenced by mysticism, by Zoroastrianism and mysticism, and especially Persian mysticism. And so we're going to see here a teacher playing this mystic game. For his o'er-reaching and last lesson, it's significant, it's last, right? Here we are, just a few poems away from the very last poem of Leaves of Grass. And last lesson, the gray-beard Sufi, by the way, it's the only use of the word Sufi, not as graybeard, right? That is to say, ancient. In the fresh scent of the morning in the open air, we immediately think of Song of the Open Road. On the slope of a teeming Persian rose garden, under an ancient chestnut tree, think about his referencing to trees in Song of the Open Road, wide spreading his branches, spoke to the young priests and students. Again, Song of Myself 46 comes to mind. In other words, here we're going to get now the words of the great teacher. Notice, interestingly, we're going to use quotation marks here, which is unusual for Whitman often. If he wants to play this game, he'll use italics. But here it's just going to be quotation marks. Finally, my children, notice the use of the word children. We've seen Whitman do this, right? To envelope each word, again, this idea of grabbing hold and enveloping. And again, the idea of word, the word in Leaves of Grass, as we've said, obviously channeling the idea of logos and all of that. Excuse me, each part of the rest. Allah is all. You can go back to Song of Myself 41 to see his use of the word Allah. Allah is all, and then the dash. Is immanent in every life and object, maybe at many and many a more removes, yet, and now the Trinity again. Allah is there. And then, notice to continue. Has the astray wandered far? Notice these 6 questions here. Excuse me. The astray, the wander. Is the reason why strangely hidden? Notice his use of the word strange, mystic, right? Would you sound below the restless ocean of the entire world? Would you know the dissatisfaction, the urge and spur of every life? The something never stilled, never entirely gone. The invisible need of every seed. Think about the power of seed with Leaves of Grass. And then he'll finish. It is the central urge. Think about in eidolons, the old urge. Think about Song of Myself, number 3, always the procreant urge, right, in every atom. And now we're back, of course, to Song of Myself 1, for every atom belonging to me. And then in parenthetics, often unconscious, often evil. Go back to starting from Pomonok 7 when he uses this idea. Downfallen. Only use of that phrase in parenthetics. To return to its divine source. This idea of returning, a powerful part of mysticism. Divine source, an origin, however distant. Latent, again, think of Leaves of Grass. The same in subject and in object, without one exception. Unconscious, of course, will take us back to Song of the Redwood Tree. Without one exception. This poem and the previous poem do have an interesting way of joining, obviously, the force of nature and the mystical understanding of that. At 2a, I think he's making the argument that the mystery or the enigma of life and nature is at the heart of Leaves of Grass. And I think of all great learning, he would argue. At 2b, it's interesting to ask, why no italics? Why the quotation marks here? At 3a, well, as we said, mystic or mystical used 22 times in Leaves of Grass. I want us to as well think about Nietzsche at this point. The 1883 Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It's an interesting question, and scholars have played around with this. To what degree did the two ever know each other? It's not clear. Nietzsche might have had a book about Whitman. It's not clear. Neither ever met. Think about Lao Tzu's The Tao Te Ching that comes to mind. Of course, Tolstoy's The Kingdom of God is Within You. And finally, at 3b, do you find mysticism compelling, and to what degree is Whitman pushing you in his Leaves of Grass poem to be more of a mystical thinker? I hope maybe it challenges you. Thank you.